A couple of days after that, my folders arrived, and it was just nothing more than a standard attempt to intimidate me and let me know that they were going to try to make public what was in my confessional folders. Well, I would willingly let any one of you read them now, because there isn't anything that anybody's going to do to me anyway. I did what I did, I've been what I've been, and I've either learned from it or I haven't, so I don't have any secrets that way, but it was an attempt to intimidate me. They brought out my B1 file. I didn't even know it was that thick. I was rather flattered. I didn't know that they could get that much stuff out of it, but there were a couple of files sitting right next to me at in the courtroom that had my name on it, and they didn't have anything else but my confessional folders and my B1 file. The B1 file comes out of the confessional folders. I could walk into the organization and remove the executive director, whether he was the president of the church in that state or not. I could walk in and show him my missions orders and say, "You're on your way to flag. Be ready in a half hour." And there wasn't going to be anybody that would give me any crap about it. Maybe I'm being a little strong in my language about it, but I'm trying to get across to you that a Sea Org member on a flag mission order or an L. Ron Hubbard personal mission, which I have been on, had unlimited ethics power in the organization, unlimited ability to walk in and remove the directors and send them packing, have them before what the church calls a committee of evidence, and have their confessional folders brought out, gone through, and charges made, and have them brought up before the committee on it. But nothing to it. That was just standard everyday stuff. The church is very fond of telling you that nobody has access to those confessional folders. It's just not true. One of my jobs when I first got into the upper level executive structure was briefing couriers on how to get things in and out of the country. I probably have 100 briefing tapes of couriers that I briefed on how to get through the various immigration, customs officials, postal officials, attempts, to get things out of the country. I have been personally involved with people who have brought money in and out of the United States. My ex-wife and I smuggled $2,000 worth of rand apiece into Clearwater on our last mission from South Africa in 1976.
$2,000 worth of what?
Rand, Kruger rand. That's the form of currency. I'm familiar with the fact that it isn't just an accident if some money gets out of the country. It's a regular established procedure. There's an interesting thing about the procedure too, because on the face of it, it looks like everyday business activities and students coming in and out and so on and so forth, which is of course exactly what it's supposed to look like in school. Children were routinely transported from Los Angeles to the Mexican base and birthed and housed there under the care of various base personnel, so that their mothers and fathers could get on with their business within the church. A lot of them had a place to get the kids out of the country and out of the way of production. Mexico, of course, at that time, and 10 years ago, was still pretty wild. In fact, there were bandit groups roaming the hills, and they used to come down to the base. The base fell under my sphere of responsibility as an operating project. I was in charge of operations. The bandits were coming in at night, and they were stealing grain, and they were stealing saddles, and whatever wasn't tied down, and whatever they could get away with, and causing a lot of commotion. And I was asked to go down with another ex-member of the church, whose name I don't care to give you, because he's still around. We were asked to go down there and eliminate the bandits. The person at that time had free access, in fact was dealing in arms at the time, and was routinely used by the church on various guardian operations. We were asked to go down, and actually went into briefing to go down and set up a little infrared sniper scope in the middle of the night and make sure the bandits didn't bother us anymore. I just want to get across to you that at that point in time with the church, that sort of thing, they were impeding Scientology. They were nothing but bandits, and they had to be gotten out of the way. All I can say was at the time I was willing to go. I don't necessarily feel good about that now, but at the time I didn't make any protest. caretaker used to come up from Mexico on a weekly basis to get money to bring back down because they did their purchasing in Mexico because of the price difference. The area was incredibly infested with scorpions, snakes, tarantulas, spiders. The area around the base house had a lot of shrubbery up against the house, and the place had never really been made habitable. The man brought me up a jar full of scorpions, tarantulas, and laid at me. He says, "Look at it. He says, we've got to have money to clear this brush out. So one of these kids gets it. You and I are the ones that are going to be in trouble because we're responsible for the area. The rest of the church is going to take the rap if a kid gets killed down there." So I took the jar and I brought it into the woman. I plopped it down on her desk, and I said, "Here they are. What I've told you is true, and I'm laying it on you. I'm not going to be responsible anymore for the care of those children if you are going to deny me the funds to get the tools necessary to clean around the house and take all of the brush and stuff away and make it safe for them." And I eventually got the money, by the way, but I was no longer in financial favor in the church. It was a little hard to get. Before I managed to get out of Clearwater and go back to Los Angeles on a leave of absence, I set up bunk beds in the Fort Harrison Hotel up to the ceiling and just packed them in like rats.
You mean people?
People. There were rooms that were smaller than the division in this area here that had bunks in them 5 high, and clothes strewn all over, sea bags full of clothes. Just very often had people that were sympathetic to the church that would apprise us of inspections that were going to take place. And if that would happen, if we would get a forewarning of it, we had drills set up to pull the bunk beds out, move the dressers out, ship them over to one of the other houses until the inspection was over, and then bring it back and pack them back in again. So if for instance, security here in the Fort Harrison was apprised that there was going to be an inspection, there'd be more guardian's office personnel running around than you could think of, making sure that everybody got all the evidence out of sight. It would be swept clean before anybody got there. And then a couple of guardian's office staff member would be put on the inspector to feed them false data, maybe give them reports of their own about conditions, and just generally distract them from carrying out their duties. And this is not something that is just once in a while. What was really funny was the living conditions was too crowded for even the Japanese.
They're small people.
Why Clearwater? And why the United Churches of Florida? And not Tampa, Brooksville, or Miami?
Lay in a cover so that when the church came in, all of the questions that could be asked and all the investigations that could be done to discourage them from coming in had been done on an organization that really didn't exist anyway except as a facade to waste your time on. By the time you'd finished running around trying to sort all that stuff in, we were already here, if I remember correctly. And the idea was to get Ron out here in the community as a religious leader. In fact, I believe he did a couple of radio shows with some local Baptist ministers when they first came in here. And that the whole idea was, of course, to use the opinion leader policy of the church, which is to get a trained Scientologist alongside of someone who's not necessarily the governmental head of an agent, but who he listens to. Who do you go to when you need advice? As a counselor, you have people that you respect their advice. Well, it's a little too obvious to put a trained Scientologist in the mayor's office. But if you can find somebody that the mayor talks to and get a trained Scientologist next to him, boy, you're in good shape. You can just feed anything you want to along that line. And I assure you, that's done every day.
People, was Tampa too big, or was, say, Brooksville too small?